What's going on, guys? Chris here with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal in Palm Beach County, Florida. And today I wanted to talk about something for those of you who are looking to get into junk removal but don't have anything to start with. Now, if you don't know, I started off using rental trucks to start my junk removal business when I was working part-time as a professional mover. Now, I used to do moving side jobs because sometimes business gets slow with the moving companies, especially during the winter, and you're also working for somebody else, so you're only making 15 to 20 bucks an hour busting your butt, and sometimes it's just not enough even working 40, 50-hour weeks. So I would do jobs on my own on the side, just use a truck, go move someone, make a couple $100 in a few hours, easily made up for the week. So that's what I kind of started doing with the junk removal. But I didn't have a truck, I didn't have a trailer, I did have equipment, but there's also alternatives to that as well. I didn't have a website, I didn't have business cards, all that stuff. So what I started off doing, because I wanted to make sure it was actually doable and profitable, was I did the same concept I did when I was doing my moving side jobs, except now is doing junk removal. So the first thing to start off with is a truck. Whether it's a pickup truck, a truck and trailer, whatever the case, you can rent them. You can go to Penske, Budget, Ryder, Enterprise has certain size trucks. I wouldn't go getting a 26-foot box truck. That would be stupid unless you have a really big job. You can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and U-Haul. You've probably heard of U-Haul. You probably have a U-Haul near you. I found U-Haul to be the most useful because they have such a large selection of trucks. They're pretty cheap, and they're very easy to use. I typically use a pickup truck if it was a small job, and I would use a 15-foot truck for pretty much any decent load, and I would kind of price based on that. But as far as the trucks go, you're paying for the rental, you're paying for insurance if you choose to accept it, and you're paying for mileage, and then you just have to refuel the gas, so you have to figure out the mile per gallon for that truck and just kind of add it all up. And as far as equipment goes, if you don't already have a hand truck and dolly, those are the two things I'd recommend having. When I say dolly, I mean a four-wheeler. So one of these things, and then a hand truck. Those are the two main things that you should really need for a majority of jobs. And you can rent those with the same trucks for usually 10 to 20 bucks a piece. So altogether, you're looking at $30, $40. I would do that for your first couple of jobs. And then I would just go buy a cheap version of both at a hardware store or a home improvement store. They're probably $20 to $30 a piece, but then you don't have to worry about renting it, and you're going to save money over the long run. So that's what I would do for equipment if you don't already have it yourself. And then as far as marketing goes, I posted on Facebook, Nextdoor, Craigslist, and then reached out to friends and family and said, hey, I'm doing this stuff on the side. If anyone has stuff they need to get rid of and know anyone that just moved. On Facebook, I would go to groups specific to my city. They usually ask about recommendations for other services. I would just make a post and say, hey, I'm a part-time mover looking to build a little bit of income because I want to start a business soon, and I'm doing junk removal services, or at the time I was doing moving services too. And if anyone kind of needs someone to come by and do stuff, I'll come by with a rental truck and I'll get it out within the day. And I booked jobs that way. And what I would do is I get the information from the customer, and I would have them send me my address, ask them, what kind of stuff it is, how much it is, if it's on the second floor, third floor, whatever, if it's a house, an apartment. And then from there, I would calculate out my cost. Now, you're going to want your cost to be figured out. And this is important when you're not using your own fixed variables. So let's say, for example, I'm in city A and they're in city B. It's about a 10-mile difference. Let's say the landfill is in city C, and that's 10 miles away. And let's say I'm going to pick up trash. I can't donate it, so I'm going to have to dump it. I'm going to calculate the total mileage, which is going to take me to get from the U-Haul to the house to the dump and back, which is going to be 10, 20, 30 miles. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take that 30 miles. I'm going to break down to the average mile per gallon for each truck, which you can look up on Google. They're usually about 8 to 15, depending on the size truck. I'm going to calculate that into 30 miles, round up a little, and put away X amount for gallons of gas I'm going to need, depending on what your gas prices are around you. throw that all together, including the truck rental price, the insurance if you choose to get it, and your rental prices if you're doing the rental equipment. And then let's say that comes out to 60 bucks. The next thing I'm going to do is call my disposal place and say, hey, do you guys have a minimum charge? Or how do you charge is by the weight, which it normally is, but see what your minimum charge is. For me, it's 10 bucks. For you, it might be like 80. Some states vary. So figure out what that's going to be, and then look at your pile you're going to pick up. If it's a single couch, you'll probably be paying minimum pickup, maybe 10, 11, 12 bucks, depending on how heavy it is. But if you're going to pick up, let's say you're cleaning out a whole garage, you may want to estimate for maybe a ton. So a ton may be whatever your dump is charging you, which for me is $42. So we're going to use my prices for the sake of math. So let's say I have, what was it, $45 or $60 for the whole rental altogether. And then let's call it $10 for the disposal. Altogether, I'm looking at, let's just say 75 bucks rounded up, so we can kind of give us a wiggle room for profit. I'm going to tell the customer it'll be between 100 and 120. So keep in mind, you're not making a huge profit on these smaller jobs, but what you are doing is you're branding yourself and you're trying to get repeat clients and have them refer you to other people. So I may be walking away with $25 to $45 profit, which may not be a lot to us business owners, but for someone who works at a part-time job making 15 to 20 bucks an hour, busting their butt, a $45 profit window in less than 3 hours of work is a pretty good deal, especially because you're the one profiting it all. And if you can do it in cash, that's not cash that's going to the taxes anymore. So I would just, start small. Try to get bigger jobs if you can. You can always get a bigger size truck. That's the beauty of it, is you can adjust a truck to your size job. And that way you can really maximize your profit and you're really prepared before you get into the actual work. But I would look up some of the companies nearby you and try to figure out what they're charging. Drop that down a lot because they're not licensed and insured. You don't have the overhead they do, and you're going to be coming out as a scrub, and you're going to want to charge as such. Otherwise, there's no point in that customer using you. So figure out their cost, come down a little bit, and then give that ballpark range, but always make sure you're covering your own expenses and you're not going to be doing the job for free. I have done some jobs where I made like a $10 profit at the end of the day, and I kind of screwed myself over. But my intention at the end was to build my business, not so much making side money at that point. So it wasn't a huge hit on myself. It was just disappointing. But if you're just doing this as a side hustle, obviously profit comes first. If it's not going to look like it's going to be worth it for you, don't do it. There's no harm and foul in it because you're not a business. You're not turning down a client. It's a side job. So you're going to get people that are going to be like, oh, can you do it for $20 less? If it's going to hurt your profit, say no. Just be straightforward with it. They don't have to use you. So that's how I got started, at least. That's when I was doing the moving and like the side jobs. When I got to my business, it was a different story because you want to actually hang on to people. So you had to be a little bit more accommodating. But for my side work, that's what I did. And it was definitely a huge help when it came to working a part-time job and trying to build that profit on the side. Plus, you get into a rhythm. You can kind of start bouncing back and forth with it. And you really figure out what works and what doesn't work. And then that way, when you go into a business, if you choose to do so, you already have some background knowledge. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll answer it in more detail. I also made 2 other videos in the past. One of them was titled How I Started My Junk Removal Business for Cheap. And then the other one was Rental Trucks Pros and Cons. So just kind of look through the videos for those. They should help with a little bit of detail. And hopefully this helps you guys out. But thanks for watching. Bye.